Hi everyone, it's Lisa here. I'm back today with the third video in my mini series using Concord 9th Hello Lovely stamp. Today I'm going to be producing 3 cards. I'm not doing any colouring at all. I'm just going to use some distress inks and I'm going to do the Emboss Resist technique. A couple of months ago I saw Jennifer Maguire doing a colour blocking technique and I thought that it would look really good with this image. So my cards are heavily inspired by her technique and I really love how they came out. And as I'm doing 3 cards today, I'm going to do all my stamping and heat embossing in one go. So I take the outline image and I'm just going to place that down onto my cardstock. I'm using Nina £80 for this part of the project. I'm prepping it with an embossing bag and then I'm just going to add some Versamark ink onto the stamp and press that down onto the cardstock. So I repeat that process 3 times and I'm now going to add in some Hero Arts white embossing powder onto all of the 3 panels and then I'm going to heat set them in one go. I'll just funnel the excess powder back into the pot and then I make sure that my heat gun is really hot before I take it to each of the panels and heat set that powder. I'm going to trim these panels down slightly using a Hero Arts rectangle infinity die. I don't want my finished panels to cover the whole of my base card. I just want them to cover a section of it. So I'm going to take all 3 of my panels and just die cut those with the 5th largest die. And I'm going to hang on to that template round the outside because that's going to enable me to place those sections back easily onto my card base. So the 4 inks I'm using today are Blueprint Sketch, Shaded Lilac, Twisted Citron and Mowed Lawn. And I'm just going to start by applying the Shaded Lilac and I'm going to bring this down to about halfway down my panel. So I'm using the Tim Holtz Media Mat, which really helps you move that brush onto the cardstock smoothly, and I'm applying a layer of the Shaded Lilac first and then I'm going to go in over the top with Blueprint Sketch and I'm just going to keep blending those out until I'm happy. And I really want to avoid these 2 colours touching too much. Blue and green, or sort of purple and green, you would almost expect them to be a little bit muddy if they overlap, but they really didn't actually. But I guess I just didn't want to get too much overlap, so I'm going in here with the Twisted Citron. I'm going to do my lightest colour first, as I did with the top half of the panel. I think it needs re-inking. It's taking a while for me to build up that layer. And I'm going to add in the Mowed Lawn over the top just to give that extra depth at the bottom of the panel. I carry on adding layers until I'm happy with how deep the blend is. And that's looking really quite nice now, but there is a little section in the middle that's still white. So I take the Shaded Lilac and I go back in and I just add a little bit more colour there just to bring the 2 colours together. And while I'm there, I add in a touch more Blueprint Sketch on the edge. So that finishes my first panel. Moving on to the second panel, for this one I'm using Lucky Clover, Cracked Pistachio, Scattered Straw, Spiced Marmalade and Festive Berries. And I'm actually going to start off by putting Scattered Straw down the centre. I want to make sure that as I'm doing 5 colours across my panel, I want to make sure that I do leave enough room for all 5. So I start by putting Scattered Straw in the middle and then I'm going to add Spiced Marmalade above that and Festive Berries above that. So I guess it just helps me protect that centre area and enables me to make sure that I get all 5 colours fairly even across the panel. As with my first panel, I just keep adding more and more layers until I'm happy. And I'm going to add in the Cracked Pistachio and the Lucky Clover now. And it's a really unusual combination, but I think the colours look beautiful together. It isn't one that you see that often, but I think they all blended really well together. And I love the pretty fresh look that you get. For my third panel, I'm actually going to cut the panel into sections first, and I'm going to ink blend each one separately because they're going to contrast with each other. And I'm just being careful here to make sure that I cut the panel up as I want it, and just to make sure that it is all going to line up when it's finally put back together. I'm going to start by ink blending one of the smaller panels, and I haven't shown all of the ink blending for this panel. It's essentially the same as the other two that I've done, so I'm either adding 2 or 3 colours onto each section. So I've listed the few there that I've used and the 3 on this panel, but all the other colours are going to be listed over on my blog. So as you can see here, just blending those out, I've used 3 for the slightly larger sections and 2 for the smaller sections. I just love Emboss Resist. It never gets old for me. It's one of those techniques you can do over and over again, and it just always is lovely to see that image appear. So that's the 3 panels that I've created, and I'm now going to start trimming them down. So I'm going to cut down, I'm really just eyeballing this, down the centre of this panel, and I'm going to take off another little slither from that middle edge, and I will do the same on the other side. And then I pop it back into the trimmer, and I again move it down to where I think the centre of the image is, cut that down, and then I take a slither off each of the edges. So that just means that when I put them back onto my base card, they're going to have a little white margin or a gap in between each of the 4 panels, but you won't lose the flow of the image because it's been cut. It will actually look as if it is more true to the original image. I'm doing the same with the second panel here, just trimming down the centre, taking a slither off each side, and then I pop it back into the trimmer, and then I make a sort of horizontal cut as well. But this time, sorry, it's slightly off camera, I'm actually going to cut about 1/3 from the top, and I just trim those pieces down as I did with the first one. I almost trimmed the wrong edge there and just realised just in time, so I managed to turn it back round. I did the same with the third panel as well, just trimmed some edges off those, and I'm going to go ahead and assemble the different pieces now. And I kept that frame from earlier because I think it really helps to line up your 4 sections. So I've just laid the template, I guess I'm using it as a template, the frame down onto my base card. I've put some foam tape onto the back of each of my sections, and I'm now just going to slot those in. And I'm using the corner of each part of the frame as my guide, so that means that the sections are going to be evenly spaced across the panel. You can see I'm just making a minor adjustment there, but you get those gaps in the middle, and they all look fairly uniform, and the actual 4 panels are straight on. I dread to think what have happened if I'd have eyeballed this, because I'm sure I would have ended up with them wonky across the panel. As you can see, it all looks fairly even. I remove the frame, and then I go ahead and I just put the other 2 cards together in the same way. So that's how they're all looking. I then went ahead and stamped some of the sentiments from the set onto black cardstock. I applied some white embossing powder and heat set those, and then just trimmed them down to size. And I've just put some foam tape on the back of them, and I'm popping those up onto the finished panels. I really like how they all turned out in the end. I love the pop of the black and white sentiment against all the lovely colour underneath, and I think it's great to be able to use your outline stamps in a different way. You don't always want to colour, so this is a great way of adding colour without spending the time doing watercolouring or Copic colouring. So that brings me to the end of the video for today. I hope that you enjoyed seeing the cards come together. I will list all the supplies that I've used in the description below and over at my blog. And if you liked the video, I would love it if you'd give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing. And I will be back with another project for you soon. Bye for now.